Patrice Johnson is with the Michigan Fair Elections Institute. She has a great background. She was actually in the print media for a while and all that, and she created this. And I'd say the number one most important thing for NORC members and all of us is fair elections, election integrity, and making sure that our votes are properly counted. And one thing that we were talking about and came to mind is this ranked choice voting. And so, Patrice, can you tell what is ranked choice voting, and what's wrong with it?
Well, thank you for setting me up. That's a great layup. Thank you. Yeah, it's. I wouldn't say it snuck up on us because we've been watching it for a couple of years, but they've been very quietly calling themselves a grassroots organization, and they are not. So we formed an organization within Michigan Fair Elections that has been watching this for a couple of years. And now you may have seen ranked choice voting folks, they're circulating a petition to get on the ballot for a constitutional amendment that would change the way we conduct our elections. And while we agree there are a lot of things to change about our elections, who wins, it should be what we call first past the post, the one that gets the most votes. And ranked choice voting is, it's a catastrophe in the making, in the deliberate making, by the way. So first though, before I start, I'd like to thank my husband for coming. It's Jim Johnson. We've got up here Jeff Shaper. He was up there, he's eluding me now. Jeff Shaper has been our Director of Strategic Development. And we have Melanie Nivelt, who's been doing a wonderful job handling media relations. And we have a lot of folks here. Tim Vetter is co-chair of our DEEP, which is the Data Evaluation of Election Processes team. And he's been doing a fantastic job too. He's the type of fella that when you talk with him, he's in his happy place if he can talk about data. So that's pretty cool. So let's see if I know how to advance these slides. I didn't check with you on that. Let's see. Okay, good. So Jim, maybe you can set the timer that I don't go past 10 or 15 minutes. So, because I didn't really time these out. But I thought today we'd talk a little bit about what Michigan Fair Elections is, as well as what ranked choice voting is and our issues with it. We have, Jim, maybe you could hold it up. There's a report there. We published this report in August, and it's basically, it sets the baseline for what ranked choice voting is, what the studies show, and not just any studies. There's studies by Cornell University, by the Economic School of London School of Economics, MIT. We decided let's get the facts and understand what the effects of ranked choice voting are. So that's what that booklet is. It's here for everyone at no charge. Just help yourself. Jeff's got a bunch of them up here, and Jim's got some at the table there. So, and we put an ugly looking cover on it to signify it's an ugly thing. Our other covers are prettier. So Michigan Fair Elections is that we're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. We are a C3, which is a charitable organization, meaning you can deduct your donations. I also chair Pure Integrity Michigan Elections, which is a C4, and that's a little more legislatively oriented. But our primary goals are to educate, to research, train volunteers, and we have about 3,000, 3,500 so volunteers around the state. We're starting to be at the point where when somebody goes someplace, they're going to see an MFEI or a PIME person, which is really pretty cool because they're all volunteers. And our ranked choice voting committee, as I said, started looking at this a couple of years ago, and we have got very active on ranked choice voting now. We have people going around talking about it everywhere they can. We created palm cards, we've got flyers on it, and we've been basically just trying to educate as many people on this because we have to assume they will get their signatures because they have a lot of money that is going to help them get the signatures. So we perceive it as, and this is the title of the publication, Ranked Choice Voting, a Threat to Our Electoral Process. We published it just as I mentioned in August, and Fred Woodward, who is, he was at the School of Oxford, he's now at Hillsdale, was the primary author on it. He's our legal analyst, and you can find it at this location too. It's on our website. We have a wonderful library at the Michigan Fair Elections website. Everything's free on it, and we deal with a lot of things there. So the origins, basically our chair now, so back up a little bit, is Darlene Hennessy. She's in Wayne County, and we have a website that is through PIME. It's rcvwarning.org, and you can look at all the videos there. It's a good central site to get information on ranked choice voting. And one of the contributors to the report was Bob Janetsky. He's county clerk in Allegan, and we had the publication was endorsed by the Honorable Judge. I'm drawing a blank on his name here. William Wagner, of course, good friend of mine. Choo. So anyway, we were very fortunate to have a lot of endorsements of this publication, which helped us establish credibility. And Phil Eisen, who has been fighting ranked choice voting in Alaska now for years, said that it was the best work on RCV that he has read. So I encourage you to take a look at it and enjoy it. So what is it? It is an electoral system, a system for voting, and it's also called instant runoff in some places. It's where voters rank candidates in order of their preference rather than selecting just one candidate. So the constitutional amendment that they're shooting for, the wording on it is basically that it will require ranked choice voting for federal offices, for governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general and secretary of state. You'll notice it's not including legislators, which I think, because it's such a convoluted, confusing system that they don't think they can, it could be performed for the legislators. So anyway, they wanted to start in 2029, and it would authorize local jurisdictions to adopt ranked choice voting in local elections, and moving the primary to August or June. And it would require the legislature to fund this as well, by the way. So the process itself is that you might have, say you have 10 candidates, you would be required for your ballot to count, really, to vote for all 10, to rank them, all 10. And then the first round, for example, when they count them, if no candidate gets 50% plus one, then they go to round 2. And round 2 is when they eliminate the lowest ranking candidate. And they take all the people that voted for that candidate for number 1, and they look at their number 2 choice, and they add that into the tally. But what happens is that a lot of people don't rank all the people. So if you don't rank beyond a certain point, you know what happens to your ballot? They call it exhaustion, ballot exhaustion. What it really is, that's a euphemism. Exhaustion is a euphemism because it's discarded. Your ballot will no longer be counted if they go to a round where you have not voted for a person at that level. So it will repeat until someone has 50% plus one, and then that sometimes happens by eliminating the denominator. So for example, if you have 100 people, 100 ballots starting off, maybe only 50 of them have gone through ranking 9 candidates and it's the 9th round. So then all you have to have is 26 votes to have 50 plus 1%. So by making the number smaller, you can actually pick your candidate a little bit easier, but it doesn't mean that the candidate won with a majority vote. They've won with a majority of what's left of the ballots at that point. I don't know if that makes any sense. We had a really good video, and I'm not able to call it up because it kind of does a mock election, which is really terrific. So anyway, what you're ranking your candidates, and if no candidate receives a majority, then the lowest performing candidate is eliminated. And I said how that continued. Now, Bob Janetsky said, for example, that he cannot support a system that discards ballots to create a winner. And I think that's a really well-put statement. He cannot support a system that discards ballots to create a winner. And ranked choice voting issues also is that it discards ballots to create the illusion of a majority. It's not necessarily a real majority. So what is a manufactured majority? Because that's what a lot of this hinges on. It's when you have created it through the redistribution of people's ballots. So maybe by the time they go through round 3, then you will have the number 2 candidate or the number 3 candidate or the number 4 candidate may steadily pick up a few votes as your fourth choice. And that's how they manufacture what appears to be a majority. It doesn't really reflect the true voter preference or majority support. So the history, how many of you think of ranked choice voting as kind of a new concept? No. Well, you've been fooled because it basically started back in 1892 by a socialist party, a communist-oriented party. Yes. Yes. And then in Michigan, Kalamazoo tried to adopt it. I think it was 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court ruled against it and said, stop it. You can't have this crap here. So they stopped it. That was in 1919, and they called it a communist plot back then. Then Ann Arbor tried it in 1974, and they were they hated it so much that in 2 years they repealed it with more than 60% vote. And if you know Ann Arbor, it would be hard to get a support on something that would be against socialism by 60%, but that's how bad it is. So in Europe and London have rejected it. It's failed in the Michigan legislature in 2022. They tried to get it in and again in 2023. And it's basically being funded by left-wing donors because they want to control the elections. They would have more control. A lot of it can be, voters can be affected by money much more. If you can't hone in on one candidate, you have to hone in on 12. It's a lot harder. It stretches people's abilities. It makes it much more difficult. So they're reliant more on materials and influence. So 17 states have banned it. And in now what we're seeing is a renewed push. And what we'll see is that these well-funded organizations are pushing it, and it's a threat to our municipalities. Now it's a threat to our state, because if it passes, then our federal elections will fall under this. So the big question that we have is, or you might have, is okay, if this is such an old thing and it's been kicked out of most places where it was enacted, why is it here? Why is it back? Why haven't we learned? Well, Jason Sneed, who's the executive director of the Honest Elections Project, said he has a theory, and his theory is that a small group of left-wing mega-donors is pushing ranked choice voting to drag politics towards the left. In 2024, liberal donors such as John and Laura Arnold collectively spent $100 million on ballot measures to bring RCV back to 6 states. It was defeated in all those states, by the way. But we do have ranked choice voting in Alaska as well as in Maine. And it has been passed in 5 areas in Michigan, but our Supreme Court will not allow them to practice it until it's put into law. That's part of probably some of the motivation for pushing for it at a state level.
Current Supreme Court has done that, or is that earlier?
The 1919 Supreme Court. But I believe it has been challenged in court, and it's been upheld that they're not to start practicing it. So it's not legally practiced in Michigan yet. So what the proponents of the ranked choice voting will tell you is that it eliminates the spoiler effect, that the third-party candidates won't split the vote. It will say that it ensures a majority winner, and we understand that that's not a majority by our mathematical terms. The winner always has 50% plus support of whatever's left over. It reduces the negative campaigning. They say that. That's also untrue based on our studies. Based on our studies of the studies, big studies. And it increases voter choice, which is very true. You might end up with 13 candidates that you're trying to select from. It saves money, which is also proven to be untrue. And it encourages moderation. It appeals to a broader voter base. This has also been proven to be untrue, that it creates more polarization because people feel they can't see how the elections happened. They can't really feel confident who was elected, that whoever was elected fairly. And it probably wasn't somebody they wanted because neither of the two parties, the two major parties, tend to benefit from this. So, and that's another thing. It undermines the platforms that the Democrat and the Republican parties would have, because the large parties, the two major parties in Michigan, have platforms, and they have candidates that are obliged to support those platforms to some degree. When you have all kinds of third parties, you don't have necessarily a platform, you have a personality contest. And that devolves our ability to have principles in our voting, other than for somebody we like. So some of the key issues also is it encourages backroom deals. So if you know you're not going to get, you're very unlikely to get 50 plus 1%, you might go around and go to your opponents and say, well, just vote for me for number 2. Just make me your number 2. And here's what I'll make you, give you a position or whatever. So it encourages a lot of backroom deals, and consistently it does that. It's a complex tabulation process that really, you cannot hand recount these things. You could if you had, maybe 25 people in the election, altogether voters. But if you have hundreds, thousands of people, even with the tabulators counting them, these can go on for weeks, sometimes even months to determine a winner. It requires expensive new equipment, and the voter education is a real challenge because people think they can. People think they could, for example, maybe only vote for their one candidate so that one will count more. Well, no, it only counts the first time it goes the first round. After that, your ballot doesn't count at all. It's forgotten. So educating the voters becomes a real challenge. And then the ballot discard, as I said, they call it exhaustion. The discards is a real problem. It's no one person, one vote anymore under ranked choice voting. So I mentioned the vote dilution and ballot elimination. You have delayed and uncertain results because you're trying to calculate the fifth round, how many votes were left, and which candidate took the most of those votes. And quite often what happens is a third-party candidate gets what's left over, because all of us might vote for somebody for fourth choice, and all of a sudden that person becomes our new Secretary of State. So this leads to increased litigation because people say, hey, this wasn't fair. I can't even do a hand count of these ballots. Anyway, it makes people's blood boil, and so it leads to a lot of litigation. And there's a potential for manipulation. When you can't see how things are counted, somebody's going to figure out how to manipulate that. You can count on it. You can count on that. So it does create confusion. It's expensive because you have to have much longer ballots. You have to have much more complex counting machine systems, and the ballot design is more complicated, and the training requirements. So bottom line, ranked choice voting undermines the one person, one vote principle, and I think that's the bottom line, the main thing to keep in mind. It's not one person, one vote. You might have 10 votes. And you might have 2 votes. It all depends how you fill out that ballot, which is not fair. And then that creates more problems than it solves. So the immediate actions are to monitor ranked choice voting initiatives. What we think is probably going to happen is they're probably going to get those signatures. They need over 600,000 signatures to get on the on the ballot as a constitutional amendment. So if what we're trying to do is educate people now as much as possible so that if it goes on the ballot, they know to vote no, to educate people. So that is what's happened with a lot of ballot initiatives. They make it on the ballot, but voters are smart enough to vote no on this. Although I will say, if you listen to their pitch, it's very convincing. It sounds wonderful. It's a gentler, kinder way of electing officials. Contact your elected officials, support election integrity measures, join advocacy organizations, take the booklet, share this information with friends so that hopefully it would be, ideally it wouldn't get the signatures, and then we wouldn't have to keep spending money to defeat it. But that would be that'd be the best of all worlds. So if we're focusing on educating people, building materials, supporting traditional voting methods. And you won't find us saying everything's perfect about our elections. That's not true. But we can recount them and we can look at the paper ballots. You won't be able to do that with ranked choice voting. So this isn't a perfect world, but it's much better than that dark world that's rolling at us if we were to enact ranked choice voting. And prepare for these ballot initiatives because they probably are coming at us. So as I mentioned, we have a ranked choice. rcvwarning.org is our website for this particular initiative. There are other organizations that are doing really good work on this. Save Our States with Trent England. There's the Foundation for Government Accountability, FGA. American Constitutional Rights Union, the local election. Most clerks, by the way, are adamantly opposed to ranked choice voting, which you don't find universal agreement among clerks on everything, but you are on this pretty much. It's a horrible thing. For one thing, they won't be able to count their own ballots either. They won't know what's going on. And their Secretary of State will have a reasonable amount of information on there. And of course, there's Michigan Fair Elections. So just a summary of the objections that we focus mostly on in the report is that voters are disenfranchised, that the ballots are discarded, the accountability is decreased, and the corruption risk is increased. The winning candidates lack support and acceptance because people don't trust that they were duly elected. And it abolishes runoffs and referendums. There will be none of those. And it increases the fiscal and administrative burden. Everywhere ranked choice voting has been applied has been extremely expensive, regardless of what they say. So there's a wonderful video that just came out today, by the way. It's The Price of Change, and it's a video analyzing our report, actually, from a person up in Alaska, I think. So there's the link if you'd like to take a look at it, and it'll walk you through the main objections and what the problems are with ranked choice voting. And thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, questions later, right?
Patrice Johnson, thank you so much for coming. And